well, would you look who it is? We got Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and, of course, Sue? And Ms Pac Man. Hello everyone and welcome to Ms Pac Man on the arcade. Now we've played the original Pac Man, and as much as that was a really good time, I gotta say, this is a sequel that's better in just about every way. It also holds a very important place in gaming as it's the first video game that comes to mind with a female protagonist, but I don't know, there's probably other examples back in the day. Regardless, let's get right into it, and well, as you can kinda tell, it looks just like Pac Man. But I gotta ask, what happened to Clyde? Where did Clyde go? Clyde's been replaced by somebody named Sue. The history of Ms Pac Man is actually very fascinating. Essentially, the original Pac Man was made by Namco, but it was distributed by Midway, who are most known for games like Mortal Kombat. Well, Midway, seeing the success of the original Pac Man, decided we should make a sequel, although they didn't get Namco's permission to do so. Instead, they worked with some other third-party company that I don't even remember the name of, to create this mod of the original Pac Man. That mod had this weird Pac Man with legs kind of thing, and it didn't exactly appeal to them, so instead they kind of recreated that mod to make Ms Pac Man, and they released it to huge success. Also, yeah, would you look at that, we have little cutscenes in between every 2 levels. Kinda like the original Pac Man, although this time featuring, well, Ms Pac Man. This game's got a lot of charm to it. It's got that classic arcade game feel that you definitely would want with an experience like this. And the map design is also, I think, a lot more creative and interesting than the original Pac Man, I gotta say. Uh-oh. Oh yeah, I was done for at that point. Pinky was coming up from down there. Alright, game over, that's fine. By the way, that whole story with Midway is the reason why down there. You see Midway's logo, but you don't see Namco's. Namco was really unhappy with Midway at first, although Midway did give them all the rights to Ms Pac Man and all the profits, so all was good in the end. But I didn't want to just play the arcade game. There's one other version of Ms Pac Man I wanted to play specifically for this video. This here is the Sega Genesis version of Ms Pac Man. It's my personal favorite version, and as you can see from the title screen, yes, Namco was involved by now. But yeah, look at all the classic ghosts, Inky, Pinky, Blinky, and, well, Sue now. Look at Pac Man himself, and look at Ms Pac Man. The graphics themselves have improved from the arcades. And that's part of the reason I wanted to cover this game, and specifically this port. Because I can say, without a doubt, this is the best version of Ms Pac Man that I've played anyway. And it's not the arcade original, which might be a first for gaming at this point. You know, you start out with arcades and they're just high-quality games, and Atari comes along and makes their own console, and they have a lot of ports of games like Pac Man and Donkey Kong, but they're not nearly as good as the arcade original. With the NES, ports like Pac Man and Q*bert are about as good as the arcade original, but maybe a little worse. But arcades were carrying on faster and faster with games like Street Fighter 2 and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4. The NES couldn't even compare to games like that. But now, on the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, I would say the home console gaming market had caught up in almost every way. And by the time the 3D era kicked around, well, arcades didn't exactly have the same pull they used to. But anyway, instead of just talking about Ms Pac Man on the Sega Genesis, I'd like to play it for you here now. So, what I love about the Sega Genesis version, and this may be in some arcade ports, I'm not entirely sure, we have the Pac Booster, which is just a way to speed yourself up greatly. And we can have this always on, or use the A or C buttons to turn it on, which I prefer. We also have all sorts of fun different map settings. Let's try Strange, how about? And let's just jump into it. Other than that, it's Ms Pac Man. You'll notice it isn't all on one screen, they couldn't quite fit it all. And we are a bit slower with our standard moving speed, but that's where the Pac Booster comes into play. Pushing the A or C button will allow us to zoom by. Whee! I can honestly understand wanting to have the Pac Booster always on, but I don't know, I like having a bit more control with it. Other than all this stuff, I mean, it's Pac Man, or Ms Pac Man I should say. It's a classic arcade experience that's definitely worth playing, although it's not necessarily the biggest time investment or a masterpiece per se. Playing Pac-Man these days may seem strange, you know, with all the incredibly cinematic experiences like Ghost of Tsushima, where the graphics and the storytelling are on another level, and they've become an entire genre of entertainment within itself, but Pac-Man and Ms Pac Man are still fun to go back to, and that's because of the tight gameplay, and it will always be because of the gameplay. Uh-oh. There was my dead end. Anyway, as I was saying, Ms Pac Man will always be a classic, and the Sega Genesis version is still incredible to this day. So I don't think it really matters that there's not a lot of story, that it's, well, This is a game from 1991, I want to say? At least this port. What matters most is the time and thought that the developers put into this to make it the best port they possibly could. But now, as I need to end the video eventually, I find myself in a conundrum because I just want to keep playing. It's really fun, let's be honest. I guess that's the kind of Ms Pac Man or Pac Man pull that just brings you in and makes you want to play more. It's kind of like Bubble Bobble, which is another game I've never played on the channel. How about that? Hey, this is Future Jockey coming in, and quickly I forgot to show off one of the very important new features of Ms Pac Man, which is Simultaneous Co-Op. You can choose the traditional way of taking turns, but also you and your buddy can team up to take down the maze. And hey, honestly, that's a really fun mode, although since I wasn't able to control the second player, I kind of found myself just knocking it around. And in this process, Pac-Man actually killed a ghost. How about that? Oh, that was smart between Pinky and Blinky. You know what? I know I have more lives left and I could keep going, but I need to stop here. I need to stop eventually. So with all that being said, go out and play Ms Pac Man on the Sega Genesis right now. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good example of how gaming had progressed through the 80s and 90s. And I mean that in both a progressive female protagonist way and also in a gameplay and graphics way. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and have yourself a very good day.